Hello and welcome to a special segment of the Global Healthcare and Medical Tourism Conference. I'm Na Hyun-kyung. This is the 11th installment of Medical Korea 2021, hosted and organized by Korea's Ministry of Health and Welfare, along with Korea Health Industry Development Institute. Aimed at recovering from COVID-19 and readjusting to the new normal, this year's conference is held under the slogan of Global Healthcare, where your days begin again. The number of patients visiting Korea from abroad to get treatment hovered around 490,000 in the year 2019 alone, and this is in line with Korean hospitals showing rapid growth in welcoming foreign patients in the last 10 years. The quality of medical care, coupled with advanced equipment and swift and convenient administrative system, highlights many aspects of Korea's capability in medical care. Today, we will start with why foreign patients flock to Korea to get medical services and treatment. So without further ado, let's begin.
Hello, I'm Chong Park, Vice President of the Korea International Medical Association and the President of Korea University Annam Hospital. At first, I want to extend my gratitude to Medical Korea 2021 for giving us the opportunity to discuss the latest trends in global healthcare and get valuable insights from experts in the field. I care deeply about all of my patients, but there is one in particular that I can never forget. She was my first foreign patient, a 13-year-old Mongolian girl named Delge Murung. She visited our hospital to get treated for scoliosis, and I noticed that she was very small for her age. A close examination found a spinal tumor that caused severe pain. She was from a small village in Mongolia, and the entire family traveled with her to take care of her. She was a bright girl, trying to close to nurses and other patients and learn Korean culture and language, even for the short recovery after surgery. When I turned back from her after saying goodbye, a day before discharge, the girl added these words in perfect Korean. 안 아프게 해주셔서 감사합니다. Meaning, thank you for taking my pain away. Those words from a Mongolian girl who have traveled so far from home will stay with me for long. Staying on the subject of foreign patients in Korea, I believe this forum today will be a valuable opportunity for us to learn more about them by sharing the story of foreign patients who have been treated in Korea, and by listening to the medical staff of various countries who have witnessed the latest medical technology in Korea. The introduction of Western medicine in Korea was when Daejeon was established in 1885, which is not so long ago. However, beginning with the Minnesota project in the late 1950s, many Korean doctors have been sent to abroad to study and practice advanced medical technology. Now we have achieved remarkable advancements of medical technology. It has reached a level where patients from many countries are coming to experience what they offer, and even doctors are coming to learn what they have. In 2009, the Korean government revised the medical law in order to help foreign patients to get medical services systems. And in 2010, we launched the Korea International Medical Association with the approval of the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Its goal is to improve the overall quality of healthcare in Korea and to share our knowledge and expertise with the world for the benefit of everyone. We also opened International Healthcare Center dedicated to the treatment of foreign patients, and they have provided interpretation services to remove communication barriers and the one-stop shop that can satisfy the patient's every need from treatment to concierge services. Thanks to these efforts, Korea has become the #1 global leader in the medical tourism market. 2 years in a row, in a survey of awareness and preference for medical tourism destinations, starting with 60,000 foreign patients in 2009, the number of foreign patients visited Korea increased by 23% every year, reaching 500,000 in 2019 and 2.76 million in accumulation. The COVID-19 pandemic has triggered a collapse in healthcare systems in many countries. Treatment and surgical procedures that used to be routine are no longer accessible to most patients. However, using the lessons we learned from the MERS outbreak in 2015, we provided thorough guidelines that hospitals could follow to prevent infectious disease outbreaks without reducing capacity. Thanks to these measures, we have been able to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak while still maintaining our existing healthcare services. Meanwhile, we are getting more requests to disclose our healthcare systems and the response to COVID-19 through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, foreign hospitals, the journalists, and others. We have shared our strategy and know-how in tackling COVID-19 through infectious disease management webinars in many languages, including English, Russian, French, Spanish, and Arabic. In addition, foreign patients who came to Korea for medical treatment despite the pandemic are still receiving care either through follow-up visit to the country or by using telemedicine services. Through the lessons we have learned from COVID-19, we will continue to treat foreign patients using many tools offered by ICT as we prepare for the post-pandemic era. COVID-19 would not be the last pandemic. Other new and unknown diseases could emerge to threaten humanity at any time. Korea will do its part to drive new innovations in the medical sector to help the world face its challenges together as one and restore the sense of normality that we have lost to COVID-19. Thank you.
So it's been slightly over a decade now since the Korean government revised its law to welcome more patients from abroad. And today we will talk about the status and potential of the Korean healthcare industry, as well as shed light on patients' experiences. And to do that, we have a wonderful group of panelists here in the studio with us. First, we have Dr. Alice Hyungyang-dan from Ms. Medi Women's Hospital.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Then we have Ms. Soo-kyung Lee from Korea Health Industry Development Institute. Welcome to the program.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And we have Mr. Ilya Belyakov, adjunct professor at the University of Suwon, who's also a very active social media influencer.
Hello, thank you for having me here.
And last but not least, we have Mr. Suleiman Nazarov, CEO of Cloud Hospital.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for being here today. So I feel like the first order of business is to find out what the situation or atmosphere is like at hospitals, given that we are dealing with COVID-19. So Dr. Dan, the pandemic must have caused some changes to how Korean hospitals are receiving patients from abroad.
Right. So the COVID-19 pandemic has caused disruption and tragedy to so many people around the world. Tighter border control and also travel restrictions have had a huge impact, not just on travel for business and leisure, but also for travel for medical reasons. In effect, we've seen a dramatic decrease in the number of patients that we've been able to serve from abroad, not just at our hospital, but I think throughout Korea as well. This means that hundreds of thousands of patients around the world have had interruption in their medical care. Fortunately, we have been able to stay connected with many of our patients, mostly through the internet, and we have also developed some special fast-track protocols that even during the pandemic, we've been able to help a few patients.
So despite these difficulties and hardships that we are going through, in which areas of Korean medical care would you say show positive potential then?
Right. So traditionally, medical care here in Korea has been known for being quick and efficient. Also, the staff really care about every single one of our patients. There's a cost advantage compared to other developed countries if you receive medical care here in Korea. And of course, there are cure rates here in Korea for many difficult to treat medical conditions that are world class. The foundation for proper international medical care depends not just on establishing an accurate diagnosis, but also having a deep understanding of the medical and also non-medical needs of the traveler, who is essentially a guest in our country. Here in Korea, we use the most cutting-edge diagnostic and treatment equipment, and also because we carefully curate the care that a patient is going to receive before they come into their country, we really maximize efficiency. And so the time that it takes for a person to start their diagnostic or treatment process is not measured in weeks or months, is measured in hours or days. So definitely there's a time advantage.
Support system to the patients coming from abroad. So where do we see the most patients from? From which countries do we see the most patients?
Yeah, according to the Global Medical Service report, about 2/3 of Korea's international patients came from China, the US, Japan, Russia, and Mongolia, while more than half of those patients with severe illnesses, such as cancer, came from Russia and CIS countries.
And when you say CIS, you mean the Commonwealth of Independent States, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Right.
So why do you think we are seeing many patients from those regions with severe illnesses?
Yeah, international patients from Russia and CIS countries placed more values on the reputation of healthcare providers and also advanced medical technology. So according to the 2019 survey, the patients from Russia and CIS countries said these two factors are the main reasons to choose Korea for the medical treatment. Contrary to expectation, it appeared that the geographic proximity and the level of availability in medical equipment and hospital beds did not factor in as much for Russian and CIS patients.
Well, we have someone from Russia on the panel, so why don't we hear from Mr. Belarkov himself? You've been in Korea for how long now?
I've been in Korea for 18 years right now, and I have been working as a medical coordinator and a translator and interpreter for the patients who are coming to the Korean hospitals for a couple of years. Russians are coming to Korea because it's much cheaper to get a medical treatment here than in places like the United States, for example, or Germany, while maintaining the same level of medical service. Especially for Russian people and for patients from Russian and CIS countries, the level of service, and I mean not just the medical service, but the service outside of medical field, people, how you treat people, how people are, the level of the facilities that medical treatment have here. It all attracts a lot of people. People are coming here, they see totally different picture because not so many Russians are used to travel to Asia, talking less about getting medical treatment in Asia. So it's an experience that like 1 and 2 experiences. You're coming to the country you don't know and you have a first world-class experience in medical treatment.
So let's get a second opinion on this. Mr. Nazarov, you also had a chance to witness both Korean medical services as well as those in Central Asia. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, like last, I would say 10 years, actually, Korea has grown really dramatically in the case of like attracting foreign patients. So Korea actually advanced in all specialties, but foreign patients actually coming here for oncology, general surgery, neurosurgery, and plastic surgery most. But in case of like comparing with Central Asia and Russia and South Korea, I think big problem here is a misdiagnosis and mistreatment. The misdiagnosis rate is really high in Central Asia and also in Russia. So maybe because it's a lack of doctor skills, lack of technology, and lack of some diagnostics in rural areas. Because example like PET-CT scanning cannot be get it like in rural areas in Central Asia and Russia as well. So they have to go to capital city to get it, you know. And example like in case of like misdiagnosis, we just have a pancreatic cancer patient from one of the Central Asian countries. She's been like diagnosed with other disease from 2016 and like treating for really other disease during last 5 years. And just came to us for request of last stage of pancreatic cancer. So in last stage, they just discovered that they have cancer. She has cancer. So problem here, like she can get only like there's not a lot of therapy for that. Only there is a possibility of increasing survival years. So Korea actually really good at that as well. So we are actually sourcing some top hospital here for her to get chemotherapy for treatment for every month. So Korea gives some hope for foreign patients who have a cancer actually, because in their own country, doctors say you have several months left, but in Korea they can at least get some several years more. That's my opinion.
It's very glad to hear. I think it's very, cheerful to be listening to these stories. And I'm glad that you mentioned that we are seeing an increasing number of patients from the UAE as well, because I think we have a clip ready for you. Let's take a look at this story about a patient who came from the UAE. So have a look.
There is something wrong in my breast. I do the test, all the tests, they told me I have cancer. I have pain in my left side and the cancer it was very big.
다른 외국에 가서도 진찰을 받았는데 너무 심해가지고 치료하기 힘들다 할 정도로 그렇게 심했었어요. 그 암 크기가 8cm 정도 됐고 겨드랑이에 림프절이 막 다글다글했어.
Then I said I want to go to Korea because my nephew, he was doing here brain cancer he have.
최근에는 우리가 수술 전 그 화학요법 그리고 때로는 표적요법을 하게 되면은 엄청 줄어들어요. 그래서 이 사람은 이 약에 잘 듣는구나. 그랬더니 거의 뭐 종양이 보이지도 않을 정도고 만지지도 않을 거예요.
Korea #1 in my opinion in the treatment for the cancer, breast cancer, because this is my case. So I like to say for everyone who has these cases to come here.
Well, I think it is very touching in a way to be listening to stories like hers. Ms. Lee, what do you think is the reason behind the increased number of patients that we are seeing from the Middle East region?
Yeah, as mentioned earlier, the Korea's world-class medical technology, especially in complicated procedure like organ transplant and cancer treatment, may be a key factor. In addition, the government has facilitated cooperation with state, local, and public entities in countries in Middle East. And as a result of these efforts, healthcare service provider agreement was struck with Department of Health Abu Dhabi, back then Abu Dhabi Health Authority in 2011. And many Korean hospitals have since joined that framework, and we have seen so rapid growth in the number of patients from Middle East visiting Korea. And lastly, we also have improved international patient service in non-medical areas like halal menu and prayer rooms. So I think all of these factors have contributed to the growth of medical tourism from the Middle East market.
Now, Mr. Nazarov, do you have any comments that you would like to add after watching the clip as a CEO of a healthcare industry startup?
Yeah, sure. Like for example, like for Middle East, a lot of things changed. The Middle East patients, like oil-rich countries like Saudi and UAE and Qatar, Kuwait and Bahrain, they used to go to US more before, and that shift is actually changing to South Korea right now, because a lot of partnerships between these governments and the South Korean hospitals. The government insurance can be used in South Korean university hospitals right now. So shift is changing in South Korea.
Now let's move on to Mr. Belyakov. When you're interpreting for patients from Russia, what are they usually most curious about?
Well, it really depends on the person who is coming, but in most cases, they are fascinated with the changes and how different the medical system here and back in Russia. For example, like what's the system we have right now here, it resembles the United States system a lot, with the hospitals and medical institutions being affiliated with the universities, for example, so-called 대학 병원 in Korean, right? We don't have that in Russia, because in Russia, it's considered that universities are the places where you teach students, and hospitals are the places where you treat people, patients. They're totally different. So this system that students and professors at the universities are the doctors at the same time is quite, come as a little shock, a culture shock, I would say, to all the patients. Plus all the advancement, the very high technology that are being used in Korean medicine right now are of a huge fascination points for the patients as well. Every time they walk into the hospital, they are fascinated with all the technology that surround them. Plus, like the thing that Korea has the latest MRI machines or PET scans machines. It's not that surprising as the point that there are a qualified personnel that can actually operate those machines, because that is a huge problem in Russia, for example. Yeah.
And I think in addition to that, perhaps what Korean hospitals are good at is having international centers, right? International departments to welcome the patients and make them feel at home to be able to receive proper medical care. And that's where the importance lies, right? So Dr. Tan, what would you say is the importance of having these international centers at each hospitals?
Right. So I'll be honest. I mean, in Korea, a tertiary care university level hospital can be very large and very busy. Thousands of Koreans are coming to these medical centers every day for their inpatient and their outpatient care. And so navigating the healthcare system in Korea for a non-Korean can be very daunting. An international department within a hospital really serves as the medical home base for the international patient. And these are dedicated to serving not just the medical needs, but facilitating all of the non-medical needs that I talked about before, the food, lodging, language support, and transportation. These are all facilitated through the international department.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Tan, for your insight. I think it's time for us to take a look at another video, and I think this video clip includes a story about medical professionals as well. So let's have a look first.
Just walking to the grocery store, it takes me a long time, because I have to stop because of the pain.
처음에는 무릎 통증 때문에 잘 걷지 못하는 상태로 휠체어에 앉아서 외래로 들어왔었습니다. 당시 시행했던 MRI에서 그 외측 발루사 연골에 파열이 확인돼서 수술을 위해서 입원해서 수술이 진행되었던 그런 환자입니다.
Here, once the process is started, it's fast because in one day, all of the laboratories are done. Here in Korea, you get the same standard of care, the doctors have the same calibers as US doctors, the nurses, at a fraction of a cost.
Тэгээ Монголд онцлогоо эмчилгээнд бүрэн гарахгүй тэгээ бас бүрэн эмчилгээ хийх боломжгүй байсан учраас наашаа ирж сүүлийн онцлогоо эмчилгээ хийлээ гэж.
전신 혈관에 염증이 생겨서 장기 손상을 초래하는 병인데 저분의 경우는 이제 처음에 피부나 점막 침범이 먼저 시작이 됐고요.
Монгол тийм ч үр дүнтэй биш байсан баг. Бүрэн онцлогдож энэ чадах нэлээд удаан цаг хугацаас алдсан учраас. Энийгээ дагаад эмчилгээний илүү чанартай, урдан шуурхай тийм зүйл маш их анзаарчихсан. Нөгөө захим эмнэлэг гэдэг одоо чирэгдэл авах юмнууд нөгөө дугаар очир нь илүү хүлээгдэх нь баг тийм илүү зүйлүүд надад ажиглагдсан.
So we saw a case of a dentist from Mongolia, and I know that I may be stretching a bit by saying this, but could we see this as a sign that the level of healthcare, Korea's healthcare industry is regarded highly by even medical practitioners? Mr. Nazarov?
Yeah, I think that's actually true. A lot of doctors, let's say from Central Asia and Russia, would like to learn how Korean surgeons do the surgery, and they want to train here. As we are a growing startup, we also connect these doctors to the South Korean hospitals to train them. We also work as a B2C and also B2B, connect hospitals to hospitals. So, and in our case, we also have this doctors who actually treat through us, came to us and requested treatment to South Korean, one of the hospitals. And after treatment, they actually trust more and they want to work, like they want to do some kind of business, so with a South Korean hospital as well. So example, Russia have a lot of big problem with pancreatic cancer. Like, so they have, they don't, usually there's a really hard surgery to do pancreatic cancer. So the Central Asia and Russia cannot do this kind of surgery, so they actually search treatment abroad. So one of the doctors from Irkutsk region, so actually came to Korea and get this pancreatic cancer surgery. And his son as well had thyroid cancer. He also got surgery here. So that they have really solved the problem here. So doctors actually looking treatment abroad because they know their own country do not have that much high technology as well as skills.
Right, if I can interject. So the 5-year overall survival after living donor liver transplantation is 81%. After colorectal cancer, it's 75%. For stomach cancer, 76%. And for breast cancer, the 5-year overall survival is 93%. For the treatment of infertility, it's somewhere between 40 to 45%, depending on the age of the patient. So yes, the statistics do bear out what you're saying, that there is a survival advantage if you get treated for very difficult to treat medical conditions here in Korea.
And that's exactly why medical professionals would know those facts and they would be willing to come to Korea, I guess.
Right. So as an insider, as a doctor who's been in Korean hospitals since 2008. I even brought my own mother from the United States to get her stomach surgery here in our country. So it really does indicate a level of trust in the system and in the care that they will receive here.
All right. Well, now to get a more comprehensive perspective, we have a physician from Turkey standing by for us, Dr. Yener Yelkin. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
So could you first briefly introduce yourself to our viewers?
I'm Dr. Yener Erken. I'm a professor of orthopedic surgery and work as head of the orthopedic surgery department at Çanakkale 18 Mart University Faculty of Medicine in Turkey. I mainly perform minimally invasive spine and endoscopic spine surgeries and spinal deformity surgeries in my hospital.
And I hear you had made a decision in the past to come to Korea, not as a doctor, but as a patient.
Yes, definitely. It was not an easy decision to get surgery for a serious condition like that in another country, but I knew I was in good and experienced hands. I knew that the doctors who operated on me were best doctors in the field of spine surgery, and also they were my mentors in my training. Also, the hospital helped me financially, making a huge discount on the surgery. They made the same discount they would make for their own staff doctors. I was lucky to have for having this serious problem when I was in training in the world's leading spine hospital. Since Turkey and Korea are brother countries, they treated me like I'm their brother in there. I appreciate the doctors who operated on me and the Wordle Hospital for the treatment and the training they gave me.
And how was it? How did the surgery go?
The surgery ended well. Even 2 weeks after surgery, I was in the operating room and observing the surgeries. Although neurological healing takes a long time, now I'm 99% symptom-free. I turned back for my normal life, and as a spine surgeon, I can operate on my patients without any problem. If I have a similar spine problem, I will definitely again not hesitate to get surgery at Wordle Hospital.
All right, thank you, Dr. Yener Yelkin, for talking to us today.
You're welcome. 감사합니다.
Well, I'm trying to imagine to put myself in his shoes if I were a medical professional and if I were ill and if I lived in Turkey. Would I be willing to travel all the way to Korea? And I'm not a physician. So, Dr. Tan, what's your opinion? I mean, you did mention that you brought your own mother to Korea to get the surgery.
Right. So, I mean, this is just a testament to the level of trust that even doctors have in the medical care here in Korea. And he had an insider's view as to the whole process of what is involved for a foreign person to come into our country, receive very sophisticated medical care, surgery, and then return home. And so this is, an example of just one success story of many. And I think that really speaks to the heart of the medical tourism industry, which is trust. Trust in the process and also in the hospital and in the doctors and nurses who will be taking care of you.
And we do keep mentioning both medical as well as non-medical elements that are important for our patients. And I think it will be worth noting some of these elements. And I believe, Ms. Lee, you have prepared a presentation on exactly that. So let's give the floor to Ms. Lee.
Hello, I'm Soo-kyung Lee, head of the Global Healthcare Relations team at KIDI, which is affiliated with the Korean Ministry of Health and Welfare. Today, I'm here to give you a brief overview on how Korea has created an international, patient-oriented medical environment over the last decade. Since records began in 2009, over 2.76 million international patients have visited Korea to receive medical services. As you can see on the bar chart, the number of patients has increased more than 8-fold, from around 60,000 in 2009 to almost 500,000 in 2019. Then, where did these patients come from? Back in 2009, Korea was visited by patients from 139 countries, but the number has since grown to 198 countries as of 2019. About 1/3 of all patients in 2019 came from China, followed by Japan, the US, and Russia. Now you have a rough idea of the size of Korea's medical tourism market. But were the patients satisfied with the healthcare services they received? The answer is yes. According to the 2019 International Patient Satisfaction Survey, international patients gave very high marks to Korean medical services with a satisfaction score of 19.1 on a scale of 0 to 100. Such a high level of satisfaction would not have been possible without the government's support, which enhanced the reliability, safety, transparency, and convenience of healthcare access for international patients. Let's look more closely at these different factors, starting with reliability. First, the Korean government built a solid legislative foundation to ensure access to reliable medical services for international patients. Medical service providers in Korea must be registered with the government to serve international patients. Second, the government introduced an accreditation system, as known as CAF. Through an evaluation process, only hospitals that have met a range of standards can be accredited. So, CAF can help international patients choose the hospital that is right for them, where the services then meet the required criteria. Also, mandatory enrollment in medical malpractice liability insurance enhances reliability, as well as safety, which we will be covering next. To enhance safety, enrolling in the medical malpractice liability insurance is a requirement to be registered as a hospital serving international patients. Also, we provide legal assistance in cooperation with the Korea Medical Dispute Mediation and Arbitration Agency for the benefit of patients who need legal counsel while being treated. Next up is transparency. International patients may have lots of questions and concerns before coming here. Things like, what do I do if my doctor overcharges me? Can I dispute my medical bills? In order to put those worries to rest and enhance transparency, we have many patient-friendly regulations, such as those shown on the screen. Last, but not least, is convenience. All the information useful for international patients is highly accessible both online and offline. They can go on the website visionmedicalkorea.com or on social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, VKontakte, etc. if they want to learn more about receiving medical care in Korea. In case they prefer offline resources, we also have offices in the US, the UAE, Kazakhstan, China, and Vietnam, as well as all over Korea, including the airport. Lastly, for added convenience, we provide a one-stop medical service and booking system, which allows patients to get medical and non-medical services all in one go. But is it still possible to get treated in Korea amid the COVID-19 pandemic? You can definitely do so. All overseas arrivals on short-term stay must be quarantined for 14 days upon landing. However, for international patients with severe illnesses who have a confirmed hospital appointment before entering Korea, the medical fast-track system applies. This allows patients to be transferred, quarantined, and get medical treatment at the hospitals they've booked after they're getting their COVID-19 test results from the airport. The medical fast-track system would help provide safe and timely medical services to patients in severe or critical condition. For all the viewers who may be watching, I hope you stay safe and healthy amid the pandemic. They say prevention is worth a pound of cure. But in case you do become ill, Medical Korea is here to help your days begin again. Thanks for listening.
And Mr. Nazarov, out of the four elements that Ms. Lee mentioned, what would you say is the most important, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think for my opinion, I would say safety and reliability, actually two main factors. Why I say that is like because for Central Asian countries and also all CIS countries, I would say, the word of mouth are going like Korea is a best treatment place for cancer.
That's actually a very important point that the previous speaker pointed. Like, it's okay to find information through the internet, and probably a lot of people do like that. But in case of Russia and I'm sure CIS countries, the culture itself, people trust more to people who actually have been there.
Right.
And actually underwent that experience, and it's much more reliable. People tend to trust much more to the people who were treated in Korea, and if they say that it's fine, it's effective, it's fast, it's convenient, so by just the spread of the mouth, everyone will come to Korea even without the additional management of the internet.
Yeah.
Right.
So the word of mouth effect is definitely there. But I've also had patients who receive their medical care in Korea, and then they bring their parents, and then they bring their children.
Right.
So I've actually had 3 generations of families that I've treated, and this is actually not uncommon.
Well, it's very interesting because I'm supposed to introduce a video clip about that, but you've actually all done the job for me. So I think we have a video clip ready. So let's take a look first.
허리뼈가 어긋나가지고 그 허리에서 다리로 가는 신경이 많이 눌려 있습니다. 밤에 잠자기 힘들 정도로 많이 아프시다거든요.
В России нам сказали, что реабилитация будет долгая, где-то около года. А здесь нам сказали, что, в общем, после операции 2 недели, через 2 недели человек уже сам может своими ногами уехать домой.
연세가 지금 80세가 넘으셨기 때문에 이제 마취라든가 아니면은 저기 뼈가 또 많이 약하면은 핀 고정하는 게 좀 어려울 수가 있거든요.
Выбрали, ну, я еще в молодости слышала, давно слышала о том, что Корея медицина очень развитая. В прошлом году зять мой Дима, Миронов Дима, и здесь был, оперировал, тоже операцию сделали здесь. Ага, и за неделю он восстановился и приехал. А сейчас я не вижу, что он что-то говорит, что где-то болит или что. Вот поэтому и Дима зять, и вот дочь мне рекомендовали.
Год назад я катался на лыжах горных и упал и порвал вот связки на плечевом суставе. Когда обратился в скорую помощь, мне врач сказал, что в России вот связки операцию не делают, просто то, что осталось целым, будем укреплять, говорит. Я говорю, и я сразу написал в клинику, ну, запросы сделали в 3 клиники. Европа, Израиль и Южную Корею. Европа не ответила, Израиль спросила, а у вас есть достаточно денег, чтобы у нас оперироваться? А Корея спросила, вот переезжайте со снимками.
And I'm told that surveys show that these international patients are also very satisfied with their care after they return home, correct?
Yes. So international patients who took part in the survey were most impressed by the interpretation services, followed by the respect they were shown by the medical staff, and also coordination services and the knowledge demonstrated by the doctor, and also the level of medical advance technology. So these all factors were graded at 93 points or higher out of a maximum score of 100.
Wow, 93 points.
Yeah, very high.
So that is a very
Higher
impressive
than
number, I
90.
must say, right? Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about many elements that are important for international patients, but I would say all of us would agree that costs are also one of the most important factors that patients have to consider, right? Ms. Lee, I was told that the Kitty has an excellent program for those who cannot afford the costs of their medical care.
Yes, indeed. For international patients with poor access to healthcare services in their home country, medical charity program provide the treatment in Korea free of charge. Since 2011, the program has helped so many people in the world with diseases that are rare and difficult to cure, allowing them to lead normal and healthy lives again. So we stand by the principles that everyone has the right to access quality health care. And also we are working on with the international community to uphold those values.
So I guess our job would be to let these factors more known to the world and attract more international patients. Well, thank you, Ms. Lee. Actually, I'm afraid that's all the time we have left for today. If you have any last comments, please let's share them. Dr. Dan, should we start with you?
Right. So I've been working as an international doctor here in Korea for over 10 years, and I've had the privilege and pleasure of not just witnessing the evolution of this industry, but also working, hands-on to build it. And when a person is diagnosed, or if a loved one is diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, it really does feel like your world has come to a stop.
Right.
And choosing the right hospital for your treatment can be one of the most important decisions in determining the outcome of that disease. So I'd like to have our viewers consider the advantages of coming to Korea for their medical care, not just for the superior treatment results, but also the warm welcome that they will receive here and the supportive care that they will have, because it is a daunting task to come here for medical care. And I've seen cases. Myself personally, I've seen many cases of people who have been able to be cured and have happier, healthier lives because of their experience in Korea.
Ms. Lee?
Yeah, I really appreciate this opportunity to listen to the different voices from the actual scenes related to the medical tourism, Korean medical tourism. And we will try to reflect your voices on our work to provide better services in both medical and non-medical areas for the international patients who visit Korea.
Thank you. Mr. Belakov?
I do think that South Korea will see a huge increase in international patients in a couple of years, apparently. Right now, we are undergoing the huge pandemic in the world, so there are not so much medical tourism happening right now. But again, after everything is done and after COVID-19 is gone, we will see the rise of the image of South Korea due to the success of the containing the COVID-19 pandemic. And a lot of people, that will create another layer of trust into the medical system to South Korea. So we will see a huge impact and intact of international patients coming to the country. And right now, since we don't have a lot of them at the moment, we have a lot of time to prepare the system, to educate the translators, to educate the coordinators, and to prepare the whole system for the future influx of the international patients.
All right, Mr. Nazarov?
Yeah, I'm actually have same thoughts with Dr. Tan, that choosing the primary place to where you want to treat is actually really important, because in case of the mostly like cancer patients, they start the treatment their home country, and everything goes to the second stage, third stage, fourth stage in case of cancer. So they end up to giving requests like in final stage. So it's too late. So initially, getting treatment from South Korea or Germany or other like Israel, the top medical centers, really important.
All right, many thanks to all four of you for being here today. It was an honor and pleasure to be able to listen to your stories and insight. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
And this wraps up the first half of the special segment of Medical Korea 2021. I will be back with part 2, where we will be listening to stories of medical healthcare professionals under the theme of Korea, the Center of Training and Clinical Experience. So thank you for watching, and see you soon.